everybody, welcome back.
We are back and welcome to September.
It is September, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Where did the year go?
Yeah.
I was up north this week, man. There was a couple mornings we woke up and it was a little chilly.
This morning was kind of chilly. I think it was 55 degrees this morning, and it was pretty nice. You had that crisp in the air, and I tell you what, you see some trees beginning to turn.
There was. We saw quite not a bunch, but there was.
I'm kind of wondering if it's kind of drought or it's not drought.
There was a lot of red. Oh, yeah, the ones we saw were the deep reds. Tammy Delk. I thought Tammy was going on a ride.
Right?
A little ride.
A little ride, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, guess not. Huh?
So howdy, Tammy. Hopefully she can. Maybe she's got her earbuds in and she's listening as everyone. She's going down the road.
Right. Oh, there we are. Okay, I didn't turn that.
You let me know when you're ready.
I'm almost there.
All right. You done?
Almost.
Still playing around. Mark Coleman, what's going on, my man? Speaking of Indiana, we were talking about that pre-show. Indiana and some chiggers.
Right?
Getting bit up and stinging nettles.
See, we got a couple of pictures from Indiana on somebody's camera show.
The moral of the story is use
aren't fun and
use for method.
there you go.
And you don't get married in September.
And
Here's the story there.
If you change your garment wear in the middle of the day, make sure that one is treated
with permethrin as well.
Right. So,
all right.
But yeah, first and foremost, getting married in September in the middle of the busy season.
Would you rather get married in September, or would you rather get eat up by ticks and chiggers and stinging nettles?
Right. Exactly.
Which is worse?
Depends on where you work.
Okay. All right. Stand by. Here we go. In 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. I'm host Mike Adams, sitting in the cabin. It's a little warm tonight with the end of fall, but the colors are starting to change in northern Michigan.
Right?
I'm here to tell you.
Are we live?
Oh, well, I guess it'd help if I came back on screen there, wouldn't it?
Don't do that to me. We are back live on the screen now, thank you.
There we go. So we are live in the cabin. I was wondering why it didn't change your
well, that's why I was looking. I'm going.
It's been a week. It's been one of those days.
It was a holiday weekend. It was a great weekend to be up north. It was great. It was actually great weather.
Today feels like Monday to me.
Does it?
It really does. It feels like a Monday, and it was just like a Monday actually. So, wow.
Exactly. So, but man. You know what? As we get to start the show, should we talk about our supporters?
Yeah, let's get that out of the way real quick here.
Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we're within 30 days of October 1st, obviously. Youth Weekend is coming up real quick. Get over to buckbaits.com if you want 20% off your order. Use the promo code UNJ20 over there. And why not help yourself getting to your stand a lot easier by using Easy Cut products at easycutproducts.com. Use the promo code UNJ15OFF. You get 15% off your order. If you saw, Mark Coleman gave us a report from the farm this week. What he was doing down there.
I think he cut down half the forest.
I know, right? If you want $25 off your Packer Max, go over to packermax.com. UNJ25, give Lincoln Roan a call. He'll take care of you. Hey, get over to the Island Armory, folks. Why not buy some guns, ammo? Go check it out. They change daily what they have in stock and what they can get you. UNJ10 gets you 10% off your entire order. If you're thinking about a game call, maybe a squirrel call coming up on the 15th, or maybe a grunt call, give jpogamecalls.com a look-see and use the promo code UNJ10 for 10% off your order. We would not be amiss if we did not talk about Deer Camp Coffee, which we are drinking...
Standard Up North Journal Blend tonight.
Up North Journal Blend. Get over to deercampcoffee.com. Use the promo code UNJ10. Get 10% off your order. Don't forget to order a bag of Up North Journal as we have it. And we haven't got the new slides out yet, but remember, Miller Deer Tracking, get 20% off your next deer track. Use the promo code UNJ20. give them a call if you have any doubts, maybe this weekend while you're out youth hunting, or definitely in October, and get 20% off you there. You know, they're still fishing, though, folks. It's not over yet.
It's never over.
You're right. Even hard water. UNJ 10 over at SouthernIndianaBaitCo.com. And why not go up to...
Where are we going?
We're going to go to Newberry, where it's a nice 72 degrees, sunny, over at Cedars, where they're serving pizza and Deer Camp coffee right there in the shop. So you can have a coffee and some pizza.
Shout out to FM 123, who carries the show for us up there in the great Upper
I wonder when they're going to get snow.
Don't say that word,
well,
man.
You gotta ask it.
No, it's going to be here before we know it.
Right?
It might be 85 tomorrow, but you know what? It's going to be 25 here in about a month and a half. Seriously. It could be.
From here on in, anytime in the Upper Peninsula,
right? It could.
It could freeze.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's not that far away.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get into it tonight. We're talking about snow. We're talking about hunting season. We've alluded to the fact we've been up north. So let's go to Sunrise Archery and talk with Derek Vaughn.
You know what? Let's get him on the show tonight because he's on the show because, ladies and gentlemen, we got some arrows we need to build. Maybe a last-minute idea you want to do. You got 30 days to do some practicing.
30 days?
Well, less than 30, I said.
Okay.
And just while we're on the topic of shooting arrows, next week, the September 17th and 18th, out at Lando Lakes, Sunrise Archery is having their 3D shoot. If you come on out and check them out, they got some novelty shoots. They're giving away some stuff. And check it out and go shoot a 3D course.
Well, Derek, you guys have been part of that for a couple years now, haven't you? Quite a while.
Yeah, this will be our third year out there.
Okay. All right. Well,
so far it's been pretty successful. Last year we struggled with the heat. I think it was pushing 90, and we did it, I think, the last week of August last year. So we tried to push it back into September if they'd let us this year, and we were able to work something out with them.
it's going to be almost 90 this weekend.
Well, in the long term anyway, they're calling for 75 that weekend, so that'll be nice.
Good. We need some cooler weather.
We'll see if that holds or not.
Right?
Well, thanks for jumping on board with us tonight and talking a little bit. So, I mean, we're in the middle of getting ready for deer season. So, how's the shop running?
Every day's a Monday there right now, you know. It's every day there's a new set of things to work on, a new issue, a new problem. So it's hectic. It's not bad. You know, the crew has another year of experience. I got, you know, some younger guys that have only been doing it a couple of years. That every year everything runs a little bit smoother. So that's helpful. You know, obviously I've been doing it for a long time, so I kind of know what to expect. Now that they do it, it helps a lot. And I don't know, we just stay on top of everything the best we can.
You guys posted a picture last week. A bunch of bowstrings came in last week. I was actually there and saw them. Have you caught up with all those bowstrings you're getting put on bows?
We're caught up. When we get strings in, even if it's every day, you know, we're getting strings probably 4 out of 5 days during the week right now. And we will complete every string we get within 48 hours of receiving those strings. I don't care how long I got to stay or somebody else has to stay with me or how early we got to get there. We will turn them around once they're in our hands in less than 48 hours.
You know, that's a good reminder for people. You know, we're going to talk about arrows here in a second, but, you know what, let's go right back to the strings. What should they be looking for? You know, let's say they have been practicing all summer long, did tack, maybe they've done something, some other 3D shoots in the area, and all of a sudden, here we are coming out of Labor Day weekend, and all of a sudden they're looking over their bow. What should they be looking for, you know, that gives them a tip-off? Maybe they should think about getting a new string or something bad might happen.
Anything that stands out, you know, the strings are pretty uniform, you know, end to end. So if something doesn't look right in an area, you know, something's hanging loose, serving's cut, you know, by all means bring it in. It doesn't cost anything to have it looked at. So, you know, we're going to give you our honest opinion. It might be something where we can just reserve it. It might be something we need to replace. It might be something that's just normal wear and tear. But by all means, bring it in and get it looked at, and it doesn't cost anything for an opinion.
What about serving creep? You run the cams when you see it starts gapping and wandering just a little bit. Is that something that you should be really concerned about?
It's pretty common on some systems. Unless there's fraying involved with it, it's not hypercritical probably to get replaced immediately. I mean, it's pretty common on a lot of cams that have a little bit of separation in certain areas. Some strings are better than others in preventing that. But unless the serving is actually being cut or you can see the strings actually being damaged underneath of the serving, it's not, imminent danger typically.
Gotcha. Okay. We got a question coming in here. Do you guys have a history of leaving secret messages on some of your customers' bows?
It's not a long history, just one customer in particular.
So who's chiming in right now.
Yeah, I do.
Right, exactly.
What's up, Bill?
Hey, I want to give him a shout out, man. He really helped us out about 2-3 weeks ago at work. We had some gear that kind of come up missing out on the streets, and he was on his bike working downtown, and he helped us get our stuff sorted out. So
nice.
Tip of the hat to you, Bill. Appreciate the effort. So
I gotta be extra nice to Bill because his office is where my daughter is living for college now. So
okay, so she's got her own
personal protection detail.
Her own detail. That's nice. You gotta like that.
Keep my honor for me.
Actually, she ought to be nice to him because he might tell on her.
Right.
Those party Michigan people.
Yeah. Right.
You're right, Billy. Best shop ever. They definitely do a good job over at Sunrise. I've been over there. Seems a lot in the last couple weeks. But let's start it right. We're going to talk. Let's start with the tip of the arrow right down to the knock, and let's talk whitetail in general. You can go. There's elk setups. There's African setups. There's just bears if you want. But a typical whitetail archery setup for your arrow. What are we looking at? A carbon arrow. Let's start at the rear. 3-fletch, 4-fletch. Is there any really difference, or is that a personal choice?
There are subtle differences. I believe that a 4-fletch allows you to run a lower profile vane and get a similar control in the arrow. And I've kind of leaned in that direction personally the last couple of years. I don't think you have to run as severe of a helical with a 4-fletch either. There's a couple other minor differences, but a lot of it comes down to just, for me personally, I get bored of trying the same stuff from year to year, and I want to try different stuff, and if it works good, I'll stick with it for a few years. Last couple of years, I've been running a 4-fletch, usually a 2.5 to 3 inch vane. So that's been working good for me, and I run a mechanical head myself. Fixed blades, it's more critical. I would probably run a harder helical if I was running a fixed blade. Mechanicals, you don't need nearly as much guidance there. So I've been running a 4-fletch. Some of it has to do with just a preference, like I said. Some of it has to do with the look of it. Some of it has to do with adding a little bit more total arrow weight to get to my target weight on an arrow build. There's a lot of different factors involved.
And the amount of helical in a 3-fletch, which is typical for a little bit of slight, or should it be more severe? Or again, one thing archery people like to do is they like to tinker. That's what I know. Like even Derek has said, you're showing a vane on the show right now that's got a pretty severe helical to it, and then Mike, in your hand, the ones you have really don't. So
no,
the helical, how's that?
Pretty typical to what I run right there as far as a helical.
Okay.
It's not crazy, but it's spinning.
But it gets that arrow off the bow and start its rotation, right?
Oh yeah. Like I said, fixed blade head, I strongly recommend a hard helical as much as you can get away with. And mechanical, it's really not that important. As long as it's got a little bit of an offset just to get the arrow spinning, it's not nearly as critical. Unless it's a really long mechanical, something that's a bigger with a little bit more blade exposure, like say a Rage Extreme or a Grim Reaper Whitetail Special, something that's a a little bit more oblong or got a little more surface area to it, it could help with those. But most of your compact mechanicals, I don't think you need a ton.
Well, going back to the 4-fletch versus 3-fletch, I mean, your standard 3-fletch, this is a shield type vein that I've got on mine. The theory behind, do you have more surface area with a shorter height on a 4-fletch versus a 3, or is it about the same? How does that all work out?
It depends. I mean, obviously, if you put 4 of the same veins on versus 3 of the same veins, you're going to have more total surface with that 4-fletch.
You're talking about the height, though. You go with a lower profile, right?
Right.
Okay.
And that for a couple reasons. Clearance, some bows struggle with clearance in cable guard systems. Some guys struggle with clearance on their sight to get longer shots. Say for like a tack, for an example, they want to be able to shoot 100+ yards, and they want to run a little bit lower vein, and they can run, a 4-fletch in an X pattern, and it'll clear their sight better than a 3-fletch with the odd fletch straight up. So there's multiple reasons why one might want to try a 4-fletch versus a 3-fletch, and vice versa.
Okay, so when that comes into play, say you're going to go with a 4-fletch, maybe with a shorter profile on it. Looking at the different systems of the rests, what do we need to be cognizant of running a 4-fletch versus a standard 3-fletch on, say, a drop away? Some guys maybe just starting out a biscuit, or maybe something that's got like a lizard tongue, something like that.
Yeah, a lizard tongue or a whisker biscuit, I would recommend sticking with a 3-fletch, just because of the way they pass through and the clearance options. With a fall away rest that's falling and timed correctly, you can get away with pretty much anything.
Okay, all right.
And believe it or not, you guys probably don't want to hear this, but you're probably going to start seeing 5- and 6-fletch be a thing in the next couple of years based on what I've been seeing.
No, it doesn't surprise me in this industry.
So we're going to have to get our easy fletch out and use it twice on the same one
Right.
for 6.
There's a couple of YouTube guys, I think John Dudley's one of them, that is starting to promote the 6-fletch on his wife's setup, and I know AAE just came out with a new bit for the Bitzenberger that'll do 5- and 6-fletch, so that's probably going to become a thing here in the next couple of years.
I'm looking at mine right now. How do you get another complete set of fletchings? The surface area there, I mean, yeah, it can be done, but I mean, there's not a lot of surface area left to work with.
It definitely on a small diameter arrow, it would be tough with certain veins to do more than 4.
Now, is he talking more of a target setup, or is he thinking about a hunting setup?
I believe his wife hunts with a 6-fletch.
Interesting. Danny's Googling right now.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Wow. Now, I've not heard of that yet. But then again, I don't dig into this too.
Yeah, the standard diameter carbon arrow, like what you guys are shooting, you can get more fletching on there for sure.
Okay.
I know a few guys that run this, like a 6-fletch on like turkey guillotine arrows too, when they want as much control as they can possibly get with a huge broadhead on the front.
Gotcha. Oh, that thing is huge. That guillotine. That's a.
They'll run even like 6'5", 6-inch feathers on them.
Oh, almost like a flu arrow.
Basically.
Wow. Have you ever tried the Zinger fletching?
I have not.
Okay, so.
I saw them. I think they were at TAC. Is that the one that was up at TAC?
Yeah. Leave that up there, Danny. I'm gonna throw that up there real quick.
Yeah, and I've seen the fobs. I've seen a couple different variations of that, or slip over type fletching like that.
Have you ever used any of those types?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so yeah, as we show on the screen, I'm at the website right now. It's basically, in this case, it's a 3-fletch. I think there's also 4-fletch as well. You basically are supposedly able to just slide it over the arrow and go from there. I don't know whether you glue it in place or you don't have to glue it in place. I don't know. I know my brother's gonna tinker with these eventually, but yeah, I know there's those out there. Like you said, there was the fobs out there. There's just so many variations of it, but go ahead.
Somebody else had one a couple of years ago. I think it was called like Blood Vein or something, and you slid it on, and then it had like ports to drop a little bit of glue in there to hold it in place.
Right, exactly. And
I've never personally tried any of them.
you know what? I tried those just tinkering, like you said, and basically you slid it over the arrow. You drop 2 drops of glue into the little port, and to me it was okay. It was easy, and I just went from there. So yeah, it is what it is. And I know like they got the other ones where you can
The wrap fletchings.
the wrap where you basically put them in boiling water. I can see those as like a quick fix if you're out, you know. But so basically, kind of a good comment by Billy Hoffman. It seems that people who sell fletchings are promoting the 6 fletch, right? So
More money.
There could be a factor there for sure.
right, exactly. So all right, so we're at the back of the arrow. We've talked about fletching. The knock. That's another thing that I've seen. Whether you go with a standard knock or maybe you got a different color knock or a lighted knock. Benefit to a lighted knock. I know you've got different colors. You got flashing ones. You got a bunch of different ones. What's your take on something maybe somebody should upgrade and go with a lighted knock?
Well, the obvious benefit is to better recognize where you impacted on an animal, especially if you're videoing. It definitely shows up a lot better. You definitely have a lot better idea where the shot actually hit the animal. Obviously, you're going to be able to recover your arrow a lot better. I've only, I think, shot 1 deer ever with a lighted knock, and that's just purely because they generally fly slightly different for my setup. And I didn't want to buy a full dozen. That year I had a full dozen lighted knocks and shot every arrow all summer with them. And I think that's probably what you really should do, or at least check them in every arrow and see where they impact versus your standard knock, because they fit the string a little bit different in most cases, and they weigh a little bit more, pretty much in all cases. So some guys have shot them 40, 50 yards, no difference whatsoever, and then I've had other guys say that they were, at 50, 60 yards, they were 10 inches different. So it can definitely be significant.
That's another good point you're bringing up is whatever you talk about and whatever you decide to do,
You gotta practice.
make sure you take that setup and get out and shoot and see what that does. Maybe it's poundage, maybe it is between the 20 and 60 yard mark, whatever you're practicing. There is that huge difference just between the 10 yards, right? But definitely get out there, do some practicing with your entire setup, because you don't want to find out on the shot of a lifetime that, okay, I was wrong.
Well, yeah, you better know before that. You better have done your practice and due diligence just for the animal's sake.
Yeah, if I was filming hunts, I would absolutely use them. I mean, I think it's a huge, visual for somebody watching a hunt to be able to see that arrow flying.
Absolutely. I think that you're right there, because last year when Gabby shot hers when I was with her, if it would have been on video, it would have been awesome. And it just, you saw the whole entire flight of the arrow and where she hit the doe, and we knew exactly, and get out there. But have you seen a preference in any of the colors?
I think a lot of that's personal preference. I think in darker conditions, like if you're low light, I think the solid colors, I prefer green. Just like on my sights, I see the green fiber optics on the sight better than the red in low light. So I would probably run a green or even blue lighted knock if it were me. But I've noticed in broad daylight, I've played around with some of the strobing ones, and they tend to catch your eye a little bit better in the bright sun than just solid light.
Huh. You're right there. I use the strobing one, and really, truthfully, once you see it in the ground, you can pick it up a lot better. When I was looking for the arrow, yeah, it was a lot. I wasn't just looking for a color. It was like, it grabbed my attention. That's right. I found it real quick.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Any questions coming in?
Yeah. So you talked about the knock, whether it be a regular knock or a lighted knock being a little different. Do you mess with string serving width, or do you just do the standard what you do on strings and just go from there?
I have had knocks that didn't fit the way I like them to fit. So in that case, rather than mess with the serving, I would probably just switch to a different knock that fit it better. And now if they were all off or all loose, I would probably have it reserved. But if it was just a case where one particular knock wasn't fitting well, I would probably just switch to a different knock that fit that same arrow.
You know, we got a good lesson from Dan Yassa, one of the first times we shot with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, give me your arrow. You know, so I handed him the arrow I was shooting, one of the arrows. And he was putting it on string, pulling it off, putting it on, pulling it off. And he was listening and could tell that my serving was just a touch too much, you know, for the knock to come off clean and effortlessly. But also not so loose that it falls off. I mean, there's that sweet spot. But I got a good lesson in that day. You know, he was talking about
and that was
how much speed you'd lose.
Exactly, and that little bit of tension.
As a target shooter, especially.
Right, exactly. So, but that's just, you know, like you said, it's easier to go get a different type of knock and change that out instead of having to mess with the serving or getting it done, especially it's so close to the season here. And I know that's pretty vital coming off the string as well.
How tight it fits in between the loop, too. You know, vertically, not just snapping on the serving can play a big role in the difference between a lighted knock and a regular knock, or even one knock to another.
You're talking about where the loop's tied on and where the knots are pinching down on the knot.
Yeah, how tight it fits in between those vertically. Yeah, if it's smashed in there, then you're going to have, you know, you can get some inconsistencies from shot to shot with not what they call knock pinch.
Okay.
Yep.
Some good things to look at.
Absolutely. These are all little vital things that we're talking about, whether it be on the fletching or on the knock, or basically on your bow as well, whether it be the string itself or the serving. So we're at the back of the arrow, and I think we need to start marching towards the front. So we're going to come up on our first break. And remember, folks, keep those questions coming in, and we'll be back after this break.
All right. Man, we got to talking, and I looked over, and we're like 9 minutes long.
Wow.
Good talking, and we're rocking along. So I was like, we better just take a quick break here.
Charles Byram in the house.
Charles, my man, how you doing?
With a little bit of wedding advice for somebody who's getting married in September.
There you
We
go.
don't mention any names. He says, good evening. He said, do like he did. Get married on Christmas Eve. So you never forget your anniversary and really don't have to worry about missing any hunting or fishing.
I don't. We can still hunt here in Michigan. It's late season.
Right?
Miss a little bit.
But you better not forget the anniversary.
I think it's better to have it in the summer.
And he also says he loves the red and blue blinker knocks.
Okay.
If you don't get a pass-through on the animal, it looks like a cop car running through the woods. Plus, my old eyes can find the flashing easier.
That's funny.
Right?
Red and blue.
I've got buddies already knocking down big deer out west, man. It's killing me.
Where out west? Wyoming and stuff?
North Dakota.
Oh, nice. Do you have any friends down in, I've seen Kentucky?
Quite a few customers.
Really?
Yeah.
Still in velvet down there.
Oh, yeah, there's some beauty velvet bucks.
Yeah. Both of the bucks that a couple buddies of mine shot were, 150 plus bucks, full velvet.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, was it you that was telling me a week or two ago?
South Carolina, I think, went off early. Yep.
So you know.
South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Nebraska, North and South Dakota.
They all got practically a velvet season.
Man.
All right.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. All right, welcome back. Second segment of the show. We started on the back end. We've talked fletchings. We've talked a knock. So where do you want to go from here?
You know what? Let's talk about the arrow itself as we're putting the. You got a standard carbon arrow. I know some arrows out there have a mid weight, have a more of the front weight, have a tri weight. What's your take on all that with an arrow, or in all with that's being said?
I like a smaller diameter arrow. I've used the micro stuff like the 4mm, like the Victory Vaps, stuff like that in the past, and I've kind of settled back into that 5mm Easton Axis, the Airstrike from Gold Tip, Rip TKO from Victory. That small but not micro diameter arrow is what I prefer. Works best with the way I like to build the arrows. I prefer. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your statement.
I was going to say, I prefer the ones that weigh like 8.5 to 9 grains per inch. And when the length that I cut them, and then with the weight that I put in the front, or prefer to put in the front, it gets me into that target arrow weight that I prefer.
Now, with that being said,
I've done it.
did you shoot the same arrows for tack that you're shooting for hunting season?
I did not.
Okay. Did you go with a smaller diameter arrow for tack?
I did not.
Ooh.
I might in the future. This was my first year shooting it. I shot a 6mm arrow at tack. It was a new arrow from Easton that I got to try out, and they shot really well. I was really happy with them. I might go back and try a micro diameter arrow specifically for that, just because of the downrange performance of them and the less wind drift and that kind of stuff. That's something I'll think about maybe next year. But I had no complaints whatsoever with what I shot up there.
Because I know people, when they go to their outdoor setup, whether they're shooting a 3D course or maybe they're shooting tack, if they like to tinker with their hunting setup, they'll go to like a smaller diameter for the wind and go
front load it.
Yeah, and front load it. And we'll get to that point here. When we get to the point, get to the point.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I know, right.
The only thing different about my tack arrow is basically it's just not the arrow I'm hunting with. It's very similar build and pretty much the same weight, so it's not like it's a drastically different arrow. I might try something drastically different up there next year, just to play around with it and see what happens. I mean, it's a fun shoot. There's nothing really on the line. It's just, it's more of a learning experience for me where I'm trying to figure out what works best. So.
I totally agree with you on that aspect, that it is a fun shoot. And like you said, if you want to go try something totally off the wall with your setup, go do it. Try it. Because those shots are interesting to start with.
No doubt.
And, obviously, if you ever watch the tack page itself, people get into it. So give it a whirl, folks. Can't say enough about tack and getting out there. It was Derek's first time. He was up on the mountain. Mike and I were up on the mountain. And it was just a fun shoot had by all, no doubt about it. So your setups are the same. Like you said, 8, 9 GPI. So then as we get to the front of the arrow, what are you thinking about maybe putting on some front of center weight maybe or not? Or do you just leave your arrows alone like I personally do? Mike does. With my brother 2 weeks ago, you actually gave him some weight up front to help him out. So kind of talk about why you would do something of that nature of putting front weight in.
Generally, on pretty much every arrow I've built the last 5 years, I add a heavy insert, heavier than stock, basically. And it's not so much for the FOC, it's more for the what the arrow weight that I'm desiring. I believe that the total arrow weight is more critical than what like the FOC percentage is, for example. I think if you had two equal arrows and one had higher FOC than the other, it might marginally outperform it in certain areas. But I think an arrow with more arrow weight, total arrow weight, is always going to perform a lighter one, even if that lighter one has better FOC, if that makes sense. In a hunting situation, I'm talking about.
Absolutely, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about hunting here. What overall weight of your arrow are you looking for? We'll say a given 100 grain head.
Yeah, I always shoot. I stick with a 100 grain head, and I always get my added weight through the insert. You could go the other way about it. It just makes it harder to find broadheads. And you could run a standard insert and run a 150 grain head, for example, and get similar results. But my target arrow weight for hunting is usually right about 475 grains. And I will, depending on the arrow, if it's 460, if it's 490, that's kind of my margin for error. I'll go 15 below or 15 higher. And I don't vary much from that on a hunting arrow.
When you're looking at building something like this off, a heavy arrow versus one that's got more FOC, what's the cost that goes on? I mean, is it astronomical? I mean, are you putting a lot of money in it for these target arrows, building them front heavy versus just a heavier arrow for hunting?
Some arrow, I mean, the arrows still are the biggest cost of all. But some shafts are, $200 to $250 a dozen. Some of them are $80 a dozen. So the shaft is still the biggest influence in that. Some of the inserts that I run, they might cost anywhere from $30 to $50 additional to add, say a 75 grain insert to the front rather than like a 20 grain insert that's a manufacturer provided. So you might add another, $30 to $50 on the cost, to get more total weight and a little more FOC.
Okay. I've never built an arrow like that, so I had no idea.
Well, that's the thing, right? He's explaining what you need to do to get into, like he said, his comfort zone. And getting there, it's a little bit extra money, but maybe it's that little bit of extra that, you just takes you over the top for what you shoot, right? And when you talk about that, what's an average? 20 grains, 50 grains, 75? Typically, somebody's adding how much?
Most of my arrows are 50 to 60 grains above stock. If you just ran a stock insert on that same arrow, I'd be 50 or 60 grains lighter.
Okay.
So, Easton has a half-out insert that's 75 grains rather than a hidden insert that weighs like 18 that's stock. Gold tip stock inserts around 20, and I think the stainless steel that I run are 72. So I'm adding, say 60 grains to the front of that arrow just to get that target arrow weight.
Oh, actually, Charles just come up with something there. We were just talking about this.
We were just talking about this
before the show tonight.
To answer your question, Charles, yes, and I'll put the question to Derek here. A lot of people have started following the Hunting Public, Ranch Fairy, and Dr. Ashby. Are you finding people coming into your shop wanting heavier setups?
Yes, but it's on a decline. 2 years ago, it was crazy. I mean, we couldn't build arrows heavy enough, and I've already noticed a lot of those guys going back down. They're not going all the way back down to stock, but they're going back down. They're dropping a couple hundred grains off of the 700 grain arrows they were trying to build just because they can't get any distance out of that setup, and there's just no trajectory to them.
And that's an important factor when you talk about if you're going to shoot a 600, 700 grain arrow. What distance are you going to be shooting out to? If you're shooting 20, and I know the episode I saw on the Hunting Public, they well over 95% of their shots are within 20 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, we talked to Denny Steiner, who's actually out in Africa hunting right now with his bow, and he talked to us at ATA that year about heavy arrow, setting up for a heavy arrow and setting up for a lighter arrow, depending on what animal he's targeting, because their distances are 20 yards really realistically and under. And he would run a sight set up on his bow for a heavy arrow, and then he had another sight he had set up for his lighter arrow. So he'd just swap the sight with the arrows and then fine tune again.
I mean, if you're a guy that shoots 20, 30 yards, period, and never going to shoot beyond that, no matter the circumstances, by all means, shoot a super heavy arrow. I mean, you're definitely going to hit harder. You're definitely going to get better penetration. There's no question about it. There's no debating it. But when you start reaching out, any further, your trajectory is you better be absolutely spot on with your yardage, or you're going to be in trouble.
And Charles Byam did say that he did the same thing. He backed off some, so he kind of learned his lesson. And truthfully, like you just said, what are you shooting? What's your max shooting? Go from there.
I mean, some setups can handle it. There's guys shooting 31-inch draw with 80-pound bows that can shoot a 600 grain arrow and still get 260, 270, 280 out of it. And by all means, I mean, that's not far off from the speeds I'm shooting. So you can do that, but your guy that's shooting a 27, 28-inch draw, 60 pounds, and wanted to shoot a 700 grain arrow, and we saw a lot of that the last couple of years. I mean, they're shooting 180, 190 feet per second, and their trajectory is just
a nice arc.
There you go.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, people with our draw length, Danny, it's not happening.
You start looking at all the stuff that's out there, and then it gets a fad, and then all of a sudden, like Derek sees it. Here comes a rush of people saying, "Oh, I got to be shooting a 600 grain arrow," because XYZ, and then all of a sudden they look at it and go, "Wow, how come I can't shoot past 40 yards, or my pin gap is double?"
Yeah, top of the housing, bottom of the housing.
Right, exactly. So, you got to always take everything with a grain of salt. You got to shoot what's best for you.
Yep.
Like Derek said, he, as much as he shoots and deer hunts and everything, he's still tinkering forefletch, his arrows, you know, and you got to do that to find out what's best for Derek, what's best for Mike, what's best for me. And
like Charles says, he's too old to pull 80 pounds, so am I.
yeah, I didn't know
I'm
he
too
would
old to
go
pull
there.
70.
Right? So
that's the thing. I mean, I'll build somebody any arrow they want. They want an 800 grain arrow, I'll make it. They want a 300 grain arrow, I'll make that. I mean, I don't care what somebody shoots if they're confident in it and they like it and that's what they prefer. I just, for me, you know, that setup of that 475 grain arrow, you know, and say 280 feet a second for deer has been, you know, devastating. I've had really good luck with it, and for me, I can't see, you know, straying off of that too much unless something drastically changes with bows, where all of a sudden you can get more speed out of a heavier arrow or something like that. So that's just, you know, just from results in the field, you know, with me behind the bow, it's worked really well.
Oh, and that's what it takes. You got to be confident in your setup and what works for you.
exactly, because you know, if it's the operator that has a lot to involve with you can put all this stuff in your hands and all the latest and greatest gadgets and whatnot, but basically it comes down to practice and more practice and more practice, knowing what you're shooting. And if you don't know, reach out to Sunrise and ask Derek. Say, hey, I got an idea in my head, and you know, what about this? And he'll give you your honest opinion. That's one thing nice about over there, is getting their honest opinion.
Well, my opinion right now is we need to take another break.
Well, let's do that.
So we're going to step outside, take our second break, and we'll be right back after this.
All right, folks, keep those questions coming in. Billy Hoffman, 62 pounds, 525 grains at 255 is his sweet spot. There you go. Oh, that's a good question. There we go.
The one right below it?
Yep.
We'll ask that coming back.
Yeah, we'll ask about that too. Because I noticed in one of the pictures that we showed.
Okay. And ready. Here we go. All right, we're back for the third segment of the show. Danny, you got a question coming from the chat.
We do. If you throw up the picture of the fletching.
Okay.
We got a picture from Derek. He sent, it's the white fletching. It's the AAE hybrids. I know that you put the fletching on, but you have an arrow wrap on there that just happens to be a Sunrise arrow wrap, I do believe, which you can get at Sunrise Archery if you want to wrap your arrows. So, question is, does an arrow wrap or something of that nature paint? What brand and type of paint do you use to crest your arrows is the actual question, but does all that add into the play and effect of the arrow?
Yeah, I mean, it adds a little bit of weight. Some wraps are heavier than others, so it can throw off, you know, it can actually fight your FOC a little bit. I mean, honestly, when I use them, that arrow, that was one of Chase's arrows, by the way. That wasn't even my arrow. I just thought it would be a good picture, but more for looks than anything, for wraps. You know, finding your arrow, high visibility. But it can influence. I mean, you could shoot one arrow with a wrap and one without, and they might impact a little bit different just based on the changing the dynamics of the weight distribution, plus the physical weight of it.
Just so happens somebody commented that that's a really cool looking arrow by Chase.
Yeah, Chase actually made those wraps.
Did he?
That was his tack arrow right there that I sent it.
Oh, nice.
I was thinking maybe being white that it might be an arrow in celebration of a wedding.
Right? Exactly. Maybe upside the head because someone's getting
just
married.
saying.
Right? Congratulations, Chase, this weekend, by the way.
We'll do that Saturday. We're closing early on Saturday. We're closing at 3 because of the wedding. So.
Right?
So anybody out there listening needs to get your bow tuned or get some gear. You better get in there before, what did you say, 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock.
3.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Right? So, so do you know type of paint? Do you have that at your shop, cresting paint and stuff like that?
No, we don't sell the paint, just wraps.
Okay.
I crested arrow one time, and it was with, I think Boning sells all the equipment, the lacquer and the paint thinner and all that. And it looks cool, but if you have to refletch, it's really a pain in the butt.
Exactly. Do you have your scales at the shop certified periodically or as they are?
from an arrow weight standpoint?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they're not certified now, but we've got a couple of them that read the same. So, I mean, I assume they're pretty accurate.
You check and verify between a couple scales. So if they read the same.
If they're a grain or two off, I don't think it's a big deal as long as it reads consistent from one arrow to the next.
Absolutely.
If somebody was going to do their own builds at home, talking about building and weights and things of that nature, and measuring, you got a certain scale that you would recommend for somebody that could use at home that won't break the bank but is quality?
Last Chance Archery makes a lot of good stuff like that. Not only just arrow scales, but bow scales as well, handheld bow scales.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that you can do is you start to get into this stuff, you start to tinker, and you get in, you start, yeah, it gets to, it like you said, that doesn't break the bank, but it doesn't start to, it starts to go, well, I got this, now I got to have that. Well, if I got those two things, I need this.
So you need an arrow saw.
Right.
A bow press.
Right, exactly. So you just wonder, trust me, folks, it's like golf.
Yeah. How much do you want to spend?
Right, exactly. You know what? We built the arrow now. We've got the insert in. We've got some added weight maybe to the front. The tip itself, when you go for field points, obviously you're going to try to match the grain of field tip to the arrow, which you're going to add to your broadhead. The importance of a mechanical to a fixed blade, personal preference, how do you view those?
It's definitely a lot of personal preference involved there, and it's very setup dependent in certain situations as well. I think guys that run setups similar to mine or that have a longer draw length or heavier arrow weight than mine can, pretty much do whatever they want. I've shot mechanical heads for 20 years and had really, really good success with them. There's a lot of guys that'll never shoot them, and they had a bad experience, and I don't blame them. I mean, once you lose confidence in something, that's it. You're probably never going to do it again. Fixed blades are great for pretty much any setup outside of super light arrows going super fast because they're just hard to control them, hard to get good arrow flight out of them. They're just, for me personally, I have a hard time getting away from the accuracy of a mechanical head and the wound channels they create with my setup. There are mechanical broadheads that I would never shoot just based on design alone. But the ones that I've shot, and I've killed deer with probably a dozen different mechanicals over the last 20 years, and I've had nothing remotely close to a failure with any of them.
We heard about that 15, 20 years ago. People would talk about failure, and I steered away from them. But I will say last year, I used the dead meat G3, and I was up at Danny's hunting. The first time I ever shot a mechanical. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Like you said, the wound channel. The deer ran, 30, 40 yards?
Yep.
And it looked like somebody took a 5-gallon bucket with blood in it and made a trail to the deer. I mean, I watched the deer die. It didn't have to track it. You wouldn't have to. You could have walked the red brick road or the red blood road.
The red blood road, for sure.
You guys both shoot setups slightly shorter draw and a little less poundage, and you're more in the gray area, in my opinion, as far as mechanical or fixed blades. You can kind of lean either way.
Mm-hmm.
There are some mechanicals that are smaller cutting diameter, G5. I think the newest version would be like the dead meat of what you shot.
Mm-hmm.
Grim Reaper's got some smaller ones. The Mini Mag, I've shot quite a few deer with those. That's a real good one for guys that shoot a little less poundage, that want that accuracy and a little bit better wound channel. Those are a couple of good ones.
Yeah.
So you need to avoid the really big cutting diameters and the really bad blade angles if you're shooting shorter draw lengths or lighter poundage.
The arrow flight you talked about, for me, that's the one thing I remember when I released is it was true. It went right where I was aiming. It was just dead nuts on.
Right. And what's nice about G5 is you can get practice heads that are matched to the broadhead. whether it be the Montec or the mechanicals. You can actually physically get, it looks like a field tip, but it's matched perfectly to the broadhead. And you shoot those, and they're supposed to be the same. So it's nice that you can do that as well, and you get like you said it before, you get that confidence in your shooting ability with the broadhead, and it makes a world of difference that you're not getting no tail whip, you're not getting no whatever might you think you're getting. Get that out of your head, and once you get that confidence down, you end up shooting a lot better.
Well, since we're on the subject of mechanical versus field point, or mechanical versus fixed, and then flying like a field point. Obviously, when you're shooting your field points, you can shoot into bail, you can shoot into foam, whatever. Shooting a broadhead, or a simulated broadhead field point for some of these where they make them, what type of target would you recommend for that?
You pretty much have to shoot them into a block foam style target. Any of the bags, even the mechanical practice, there's a lot of mechanical practice heads out there, and they'll get hung up in the bag targets. So you really got to have some type of foam, block style target.
Is there one that may be a little bit better than the other, or one that's more popular with the shooters out there?
Blocks are the most popular for us that sell the best. We got some targets from Big Shot. The 10, they get 10-sided target that seems to be a really nice one. The Morel High Roller, we always sell out of that one really quick.
Okay.
That's another one that seems to be popular. And then Delta's got a couple, the Big 8, and then I forget, the other one's called Green Line, I think. It replaced the old one. They had a different one a couple years ago they replaced with that one. All of those seem to work pretty good.
The High Roller is the dice-looking one, right?
Yes.
That's the one I brought up to TAC. We kind of threw it out there, and
we're all shooting at. Gotcha. Yeah.
That's the High Roller one.
That one we always sell out really quick.
It's a great, it's a great target. I tell you what, it's compact, it's light enough. It's got a handle on it. You just kind of walk it out there wherever you want. You throw it, and it kind of rolls. And then we just had fun trying to shoot around it with, kind of makes it nice.
Yeah, and if somebody shoots before the other person spins it or rolls it, the next person misses.
Right.
Depending if you're shooting at the dot on the edge or the top.
What, going back to the mechanical broadheads, do you find that it's a one and done situation typically when you shoot an animal because of the thinness of the blades? Like Mark Coleman said here that he used the mechanical to kill a turkey at just over 20 yards. It was a Knapp Spitfire, and it bent the blades.
Yeah, if I shoot an animal with a mechanical, even regardless of what it looks like, I'm done with it. I retire it, and I'm okay with that. If I burn a broadhead on a deer, that's fine with me.
Right.
That's a good thing.
I agree with you there.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, obviously some of the fixed blades you can use over and over again, and I'm sure some of the mechanicals you can too.
Well, the fixed blades though. After shooting them, you should resharpen them, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we see a lot of customers that come in, their quiver's in their case, and you look in the quiver and they got fixed blade heads in there, and every one of them's got dirt, or you can see it's been shot into the target. It's got the little, the film from the foam targets on them and stuff, and I always cringe. They're going into the field, at a disadvantage shooting dull broadheads, in my opinion.
Matter of fact, the broadhead Mike's got here is pretty dull. He was handling it, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Yeah, it's pretty dull."
It's super critical that your broadhead's sharp, regardless whether it's a fixed blade or a mechanical.
Exactly. And a question out there is Travis Monroe wants to know, in your opinion, let's see, 27.5 draw, 70 pounds, a 400 grain arrow, running Schwackers. What's your opinion?
It's going to get the job done. I would prefer a slightly heavier arrow for me personally, but 400 at one time was kind of a moderate weight arrow. Now it's considered light, so that's an arrow. What bow is it? Is it a newer bow or?
Let's see if he comes back.
I don't know if he's on here or not.
Yeah, let's see if he comes back and tells us what type of bow he's shooting it out of.
If it's a newer bow versus an older bow, it can be quite a significance in energy.
Right. Okay. We just got done shooting all our arrows. should we check arrows? Give them maybe a little bend test? Should we go through them looking for cracks or anything like that?
Well, if you're banging arrows together, group shooting, I would definitely flex them periodically and check them. As far as like my hunting arrows, I spin them all. Even with the mechanical heads, I want them spinning true. I don't want the point of that broadhead wobbling at all. If it does, I'll switch it to the next arrow or switch out the broadhead altogether if I can't get it to spin good.
Travis is shooting the TRX 34.
Okay, he should be fine. Like I said, I would prefer adding, 40 to 50 grains to that arrow myself. But that arrow is not like crazy light by any means. The Schwacker's 2-inch, but it's a 2-blade. I assume he's shooting the 2-inch 2-blade. They do make a few others, but that's by far the more popular. So 2-inch sounds like a lot, but when it's only 2 blades, it's not nearly as big as it sounds. When you compare it to some of the 2-inch 3 or 4 blades out there.
Mark Coleman says he needs new mechanicals. What's your recommendations?
My go-to mechanical head the last couple of years is a Grim Reaper Mini Mag.
There you go, Mark Coleman. I know we've shot G5. I haven't had any problems with those. You didn't have any problems with them last year. Neither has Gabby.
Yeah,
So
the Dead Meat's one that I like too, and I shot the predecessor to that. I think what Mike was talking about, the T3.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've shot quite a few deer with those and had really good luck with them. The thing about those is, for guys that are afraid that they're not going to open, is they have exposed cutting surfaces. Even if they, something happened and for whatever reason they didn't open, you're still getting exposed cutting surfaces going through that deer. And obviously, not ideal situation, but you put a good shot on a deer, it's still going to kill it.
Yeah, you put it through the heart.
Yeah, right.
It's going to die.
Comment from Charles Byram. Charles Byram's from Iowa. He's one of those Iowa kind of guys. He believes in fixed blades more than mechanical, but he's actually lost more deer with fixed than he has mechanicals. Might be just dumb luck, but probably his accuracy.
It could be. I mean, if they're not flying good, it could be shot placement. And that's part of the reason I like the mechanicals. It could be just a coincidence. There's a lot of variables when it comes to recovering a deer. Did the fat plug the hole on one deer and not the next? You might have a great blood trail with the exact same shot on one deer, and the next one you shoot the same spot, you got no blood at all. So there's a lot of variables with fixed or mechanicals.
Oh, we're talking just about the arrow build, right? So between that, the bow, the sight, your release, conditions, there's a lot of variables that go. Wind. Learned that at TAC, how to read the wind. One of the things we learned. But you sit there. So you got your arrow. You go get some practice in, folks. Like I said, fixed blades. Make sure you resharpen them. The mechanicals, agreed. You're gonna use them once on a deer. The blade should be pretty messed up, but that's okay because you probably shot a deer with it.
That's a good thing,
right? So now we got the arrows built. Anything else you want to talk about anywhere on the arrow that we haven't talked about?
I think we pretty well covered it.
If you were to shoot a fixed blade, what would you pick?
Which one?
Yep.
Well, my wife shoots the Grim Reaper Hades, the Hades Pro, and I've been really impressed with those. She only shoots about 45 pounds. 27.5-inch draw, and she's killed 2 bucks the last 2 years. One was a 4.5-year-old, one was a 3.5-year-old. Pass-throughs on both of them with that head. Really good blood trails. So that's one I like a lot. There's a lot of good ones. Slick Tricks, G5 Striker V2s, the Montec M3 from G5, the Q80 Exodus. We sell a ton of those. Those seem to be a really tough head. A little bit bigger cutting diameter on that head, but a really strong head that a lot of guys have a lot of success with.
Speaking of that, you talked about your wife shooting 40 pounds. Do you play around with her arrows with adding weight to the front of her arrows to help her out at 40 pounds?
I basically build her arrows exactly like mine, but with a lighter starting weight, because it's a lighter spine. So her arrows, I'm still running the same, like 75 grain insert, 100 grain head, similar vein setup. They usually end up weighing about right around 400 grains.
Okay. So there you go, folks. We've talked about arrow from tail to nose, nose to tail. And if you want to get something done, you're in the area, give Sunrise Archery a call. Go to their website, check out the brands they got there, the products. Obviously, Derek's going to be there from now until October 1st. He's never leaving. He's sleeping there probably. He's probably just home today so he can get his equipment to go back and have a sleepover.
Work tonight.
Right? So get over to sunrisearchery.com. Check them out on Facebook. Check them out on the web. So we're going to go into our last break. We'll come back. We're going to make it a little bit more fun. We're going to look at some pictures of deer he's got on camera and kind of see what his menu is he's cruising for the upcoming hunt.
All right, we're going to step outside. We'll be right back after this.
All right, folks, last chance. Uh-oh.
Question?
Yeah, question and some inside information.
Uh-oh.
Somebody messing with me?
Maybe.
I wouldn't say messing with you. I wouldn't go that far.
Right. Nah.
All right. Here we go. All right, fourth segment. And before we jump into this segment, we want to wish an early happy birthday to Derek. Somebody let the cat out of the bag on you. We won't ask you how old, but happy birthday to you early.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
We do have a... gee, I wonder what he's getting for his birthday. Here's a gift certificate for archery equipment.
There you go.
Anyways, let's see. Question, here we go. When you're buying arrows, should you buy them by the dozen? Should you buy them by the half dozen? Does it matter? What do you think there?
I think it all depends. I mean, some guys are just wanting to try an arrow to see if they like it. I would recommend just buying a half a dozen, see how they shoot. I mean, if you're sold on an arrow and you really like that arrow, I would probably buy them a dozen at a time. It's just kind of case by case. Maybe somebody bought 6 and they broke 2, and they like the way they shoot. They just need 6 more. It's just case by case.
I agree there. You can, if you're getting into the tinkering and you only buy 6 at a time, that's fine.
Well, and they're built so good now. I mean, the tolerances on them, you shouldn't be getting a big wide variance in tolerances and having to sift through. They should all be right there.
Yeah. I mean, we've had customers buy 3 dozen at a time before, so it's they really love that arrow. They're afraid it might not be made anymore, or they heard it's going out or going to be discontinued, and they'll buy 2-3 dozen of them.
I agree there. All of a sudden you go in and all of a sudden, hey, we don't make those anymore. Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked about arrows. Everybody go check out sunrisearchery.com. So now, kind of the point in the show, we're going to show a little eye candy for everybody out there that Derek has some leases around Michigan, Indiana.
The United States somewhere.
The United States. He'll give you the pinpoint of not going to tell you coordinates. But the first one we're showing on the screen is a nice looking buck looking away from the camera.
Daytime shot out in the woods.
Nighttime or daytime?
Daytime.
Really tall tines?
Yep, out in the woods.
Yeah, that's a buck that's down in southern Indiana. We got this lease last year, and that buck was the very first buck that showed up on camera that caught our interest. And he was probably low 130s, 9-pointer last year. And as you can see, he got a lot bigger. I think he's got, four tines that are, 12 to 13 inches now, and depending on how long his brow tines are, which is hard to tell, and he didn't have really good ones last year. He could be, 155 to 160 inch deer this year, so he is definitely, my number 1 target buck for this entire season at this point.
And yes, Mark Coleman, you heard it right. It is Indiana, down by you.
It's probably past him, most likely, because it's close to Kentucky.
Yeah, it's a lot further south.
Yeah, you're way south than where he's at. But looking at this, you're getting trail cameras of this guy. He's looking spectacular. The next buck we got is a buck that's standing on the edge of a cornfield, looking, and he's not a bad buck either.
No, that's a Michigan deer. That's a really good-looking 8-pointer. I've got a handful of Michigan bucks that are, that caliber buck or similar. Nothing that's like really got me going crazy though. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're nice bucks, and I'd love to shoot a handful of them, but nothing like that buck from Indiana.
Yeah, if you're gonna spend your time hunting, it's gonna be in Indiana. It looks like.
Well, I really like hunting Michigan, and I have a lot of success down in that area. So I will be spending quite a bit of time there, that I do have off in Michigan. I do have a week set aside for Indiana, though, that second week in November.
That
Magical time of year.
Right. Billy Hoffman, would that question go? Would D trade U of M winning national championship in football and basketball in the same year if he got to shoot a 200-inch buck? Would you, Derek?
Absolutely. Yeah, I like hunting a lot more than I like sports.
There you go.
Yeah, that to happen in the same year would be amazing. Question from Chase. You're going to kill a 150. I get it.
That's Chase.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hopefully.
Well, right? That's all you can ask for is to get the chance to do it, right?
That buck down there is the only one I know of that would break that mark, so we'll see.
Hopefully you get a shot at him.
There's more of them down there. We had a bunch of them show up last year while we were down there hunting during the rut, and anything could show up, so.
Well, we got one here. It's a night photo. Looks like a 10.
That's another deer from Indiana. I don't know that I would shoot him this year. We'll see how the hunt goes, but that's a deer we had pictures of last year, and I think he's just 3.5 this year. He's a solid 10. I mean, he's got some mass. He just, with that other buck running around, and I know that other deer lives right there, it's going to be hard to shoot that deer.
Oh, same. Okay, so on the same lease, you got those 2 bucks. Yeah, that's kind of. I get it.
It's not a real big piece of property. It's only about 60 acres, so.
Right, and so you got, you're gonna have to weigh the options when you're down there. What's happening? Are the deer moving? Not moving? What weather? There's a whole bunch of factors that go into that. And when you get a chance like this, and we've talked about arrows. Which the question is coming in from Zach? Which is more important, speed of arrow or mass of arrow in terms of kinetic energy?
Well, they're both. I mean, if you did a kinetic energy calculation from a 300 grain arrow coming out of one bow and then the same bow shooting a 500 grain arrow, the kinetic energy actually doesn't change a great deal, like as far as on the scale. But what does change is the the momentum, and I think that's more critical than what the actual kinetic energy is. So the heavier arrow is gonna carry more of that momentum. I've used the analogy many times, like throwing a ping pong ball into a snowbank versus a golf ball. I don't care how fast that ping pong ball is going. It's not going to get as deep as that golf ball. So they both matter, but I mean, you could shoot a 100 grain arrow going Mach whatever, and it's just not going to have a lot of ass behind it. So.
Exactly. That's a great analogy of throwing a ping pong ball into a snowbank or a golf ball. It's just what's behind it, right? And the weight. Mark Coleman says Indiana raised their license fees this year.
I know.
He knows. Vote of confidence there.
They went from, they raised them almost $100 for non-residents.
Wow.
Well.
And that's buying the $1 and 2 doe tag?
I just buy I buy an archery tag, and if I don't fill it, I'll buy a gun tag and hunt the gun season. You can only kill $1, but you have to have a license for whatever weapon you're using.
That's right. That's right. I remember I bought mine was archery.
So you bought yours for archery?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I plan on hunting. Their gun season I think starts on the 12th this year.
I know
So
it's close to
I'm planning on bow hunting like the 7th through the 11th. And then if I don't kill one with a bow, I'll buy the gun tag and hunt 12th, 13th, and then be back for our gun opener here.
Nice. I tell you what, look at these pictures you got on these leases you have. These are some great deer to be shooting at. Some people it's a dream to shoot at some of these bucks on a regular basis or have a chance at one of these bucks. One of the questions I do have is, what is Derek's dream hunt?
That's a tough call. I mean, there's a lot of animals I'd like to shoot. I love doing elk hunt. I love to do a moose hunt. Those are way up there. But deep down, I'm a whitetail guy, and I think the Iowa bow hunt for me is kind of what I've been looking forward to, and I'm hopefully going to be able to do in 2 years. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. After that, it would probably be elk with a bow.
There you go. And I know elk season going on right now.
Here in Michigan, yep.
Here in Michigan, kind of around the country, they've got elk season. Randy Stoppenhagen, I know he's up at elk camp. I haven't seen anything. He posted how they're doing.
He was up this weekend, right?
Yep. Mark Coleman says the bundle is like $550 for non-residents down in Indiana.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yeah, it used to be $295.
Yep.
And then the tags were $150, so it made sense to buy the bundle because it was cheaper than 2 tags. And now they got the bundle so high that it's more expensive for the bundle than it is for 2 tags. So I don't see why anybody would buy the bundle unless they're planning on hunting with a bow, a gun, and a muzzleloader or something like that. But
okay, well, you're only allowed $1, right? So,
$1. Yep.
Like you said, you're gonna go in there with an archery tag. Do you feel well? If you fill it, you're done. If you don't, then you just said, "Hey, I'll go run into town, buy the gun license."
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's $240 now. So I mean, you can get 2 tags for $480 or buy a bundle for $5 something. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
I'll just be buying a bow hopefully, and if I don't get one with that, I'll get the gun tag.
There you go.
And that's the thing. I know, like Mark Coleman talked about them raising their prices. I know when Michigan raises their prices, it's another interesting concept here in Michigan. That
It's the end of times.
Right, but
Michigan's still one of the cheapest places to hunt.
they are. They're one of the cheapest places. Depending on where you're at, you got some great bucks to look at. I just love getting out there myself, whether I'm in the UP, a year place, or wherever we might be hunting. But just getting out in the woods and kind of connecting with nature and figuring out how it is, and wondering if Derek's going to get that buck that he showed me on camera.
There you go.
So
a 150.
A 150. So, like you said, we're getting into that time. Folks, we talked about arrows head to toe tonight. Get into your local archery shop if you're close here in Michigan. Get into Sunrise. Go see Derek. Work on those. Get out there. Get some practice in. I'll be in my final tune-up phase here next couple days. We'll go from there. Hopefully, I'm hoping to be up for the first weekend. Hopefully, if it works out, I'll be up there. Maybe get an early buck.
You going up on the first?
I think I am.
That's kind of my plan right now.
I think I'm gonna sneak up Friday, come back Monday, hunt 1 and 2. Derek, you're gonna be out there opening day?
Yes.
I thought he was gonna be in the shop.
No, I'm pretty much working every day until then, but I'm taking the opener off.
It sounds like Chase is going to be in the shop because he's got this weekend.
I'd stick him with it. Hey, you're getting in the shop.
He'll be working
For the whole month of October and November.
Yeah, three guys that hunt local that can hunt regardless of working before or after hours because our hours are shorter then.
Yeah.
So they'll still be able to get in the woods, and then the 2 of us that hunt, a little bit of distance away, we're taking the day off. So
Don't blame you.
Absolutely.
I thought that was the most fair way to do that.
Yeah, the boss running the shop gets take that time off. I think that's fair.
That's what the boss does.
That's right. You set the rules.
And don't worry about anybody in the area. The construction doesn't affect them. You can get around the barricades. Don't worry about it.
That's right. So, all right, folks. Well, you just get out there, shoot. Do the animals justice. Get out there and practice. Like Danny said, if you're in the area, stop over at Sunrise, get your gear over there and get tuned up. Derek, thanks for taking an hour or so out of your time tonight to talk with us about arrow builds.
Chase is already crying. Derek won't let me hunt this year.
Yeah. I bet somebody will be posting a picture here real soon.
Right, so like you said, folks, get over to sunrisearchery.com. Check them out. If you got any questions, just give Derek a call. He'll take the time out to talk with you and help you out if you got a question. That's one thing nice about the phone. You know, give him a shout.
That's right. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we've got Randy Stoppenhagen on from C3 Mitts.
So we're going to talk about C3 Mitts, Better the Hunt Technologies, better known as, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have an elk story, good, bad, or indifferent.
Hopefully he's got some elk meat in the freezer when we talk to him. So, once again, Derek, happy birthday early. Enjoy, and hang on. We'll talk right after the show. So, for those of you listening on the podcast, make sure you go over, if you're listening on iTunes, give us a review over there. That helps us and helps the people who support us. And for those of you here that are listening or watching the live stream, give us a like, follow, and share the show if you would, please. Go over and do the same over at Sunrise Archery's website or Facebook page and give them a like, follow, and share as well.
Absolutely. And then, like we always do, we go live on Wednesdays. Around the weekend, you'll see it live. Well, not live, but you'll see the rebroadcast on YouTube. If you're over on YouTube watching this, do us a favor, subscribe. It helps us out, and it helps us, get the word out about Up North Journal.
And share the show as well.
Share the show, and we will see you guys next week with C3 Mitts.
That'll do it for us this week. We'll see you all again next week. If you're all out in the woods, shoot straight, be safe.